Good evening and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the south. Mobile madness as police crack down on motorists. A mother is caught using her mobile while on the school run.
Is it an unfair decision why these brothers have been told they can't travel on the same bus together in Portsmouth?
High society, the glamorous 20th century aristocrat whose antiques and heirlooms are going under the hammer.
And out of this world, stargazers eagerly await the bigger, brighter supermoon, not seen for nearly 70 years. Good evening. A mother has been stopped by police for using her mobile phone while driving her children to school.
It happened this morning at the same time that police forces across our region were launching a campaign to crack down on drivers using their mobiles behind the wheel.
The woman was pulled over by police on the A30 at Camberley in Surrey, busy with people driving to work as well as parents on the school run.
And it comes just a fortnight after a lorry driver from Andover was jailed for 10 years for killing a mother and 3 children on the A34 in Berkshire. He'd been using his phone at the time. Mary Stanley has more.
Another motorist pulled over in Hampshire for using his phone behind the wheel as a nationwide clampdown begins.
You've got your mobile phone to your ear and you're speaking into it, held with your right hand, OK? That's the reason why I stopped you.
PC Charlie Shepherd has seen it all, from motorists texting or taking photos at the wheel to checking their route online. And he's heard all the excuses. This man is late for a new job.
Keep your phone in your pocket, buddy, OK? You might have been at work by now. Safety, OK? He had absolutely no idea we were there. He was so transfixed, or more so on his mobile phone conversation, that he was on driving. Anything could have happened. Somebody stepped out, he wouldn't have noticed it.
In Surrey, this woman was stopped for using her mobile phone on the school run. And this motorist said he was arranging his birthday party. One of 5 drivers stopped in just 2 hours.
You're 4 times more likely to be involved in a collision, which could be a fatal one, than if you don't use your phone. My words are, turn the thing off, don't use it. No phone call is that important.
Drivers caught face a fine and points on their licence, a trip to court or an awareness course.
The government has announced it's planning to increase the fines for motorists who use their phone behind the wheel from £100 to £200. The penalty points will rise from 3 to 6. And it comes as figures show the number of motorists prepared to use their phone behind the wheel is on the increase.
The last crackdown by Hampshire Police in May saw 190 people caught, a rise of 36%. The campaign message, a split-second decision can cost lives, brought home with a devastating crash on the A34, which claimed the lives of a mum and 3 children. Hampshire lorry driver Thomas Croker was changing music on his phone seconds before the impact.
That split second when you're just doing that one photo, phone call, text message or whatever, say you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to come out in front of you, what's going to stop, what your vehicle's going to do. It can go horribly wrong very, very quickly. And all these people that say, oh, it wouldn't happen to them, well, it can happen to them, it can happen to anybody.
Cuts in police numbers mean prosecutions have fallen. But officers hope education, tougher penalties and campaigns like this will make drivers think twice before picking up their device. Mary Stanley, ITV News.
Investigations have been continuing today into the cause of a fire which badly damaged a shop in Southampton last night. More than 30 firefighters tackled the blaze in the property on Shirley High Street amid fears that people may have been trapped in an upstairs flat. Fortunately, no one was in at the time.
Incredibly tough conditions last night for our firefighters. The fire took hold extremely quickly, spread from the ground floor through to the first floor and then up into the roof space. Because of the fact that our firefighters had to remove flooring and some of the internal walls to access the fire, it made fighting the fire incredibly difficult and incredibly arduous for our crews that were involved.
Campaigners are demanding better public transport facilities for disabled people after 2 brothers in wheelchairs were told they couldn't get on the same bus together. 7 buses came and went before they decided to make their own way to the ferry.
Robert McDowell says his sons have used first buses near their home in Gosport on several occasions. But in Portsmouth, they were told by drivers they would have to travel separately for health and safety reasons.
Well, the bus company says it has sympathy with the family, but their drivers were abiding by the law. Emma Wilkinson now takes up the story.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Brothers Travis and Braden getting wrapped up warm and ready for the school run. Both live with severe disabilities. Everyday tasks can be a struggle, so being able to enjoy days out together is hugely important. Recently, the boys and two carers caught one bus from Gosport to do some shopping in Portsmouth. Heading home, it was a different story altogether. They waited for a bus. When one arrived, the driver told them he couldn't take both boys in their wheelchairs, so they waited for another bus, the same again. Another 5 buses came after that. All said they couldn't take both boys in their wheelchairs.
I couldn't believe it. They got all the way over there on public transport, but they wouldn't let them use it to get home. Over this side of the water, they've been to Fareham and back, Gosport and back. It's never been a problem.
But First Bus says that is a problem and the boys should never have been allowed to board a bus together because legally there is only room for one wheelchair.
So the reason that there is one space is because there is a backrest. That backrest actually prevents the user from having any spinal injuries, any whiplash, or indeed the chair tipping over in the event of an emergency incident happening on the vehicle.
But they had absolutely no awareness, they say, that this policy on buses existed. That's a problem, isn't it?
Well, it's an industry-wide problem. It's not just a problem for ourselves. There is actually signage on all of the vehicles, albeit down beside the door.
I mean, this sign here, for example, says it's reserved for a wheelchair, but it doesn't make it clear at all that that's one wheelchair and one wheelchair only.
Signage on the vehicles is something that potentially could be looked at in terms of where it is placed.
First says it's also rebriefing its drivers on how to deal with situations like this. But campaigners say the whole industry needs to do more.
I think what we need to do is to have larger spaces available on buses that can accommodate 2 wheelchairs or a wheelchair and a buggy. So I think we need to really look into the design of future buses and let's think about how we can do it better.
It should be made accessible for everybody. If you've got 2 individuals in wheelchairs and they both want to go to the same place they're not going to be able to, and if it's pouring down, they're going to be left out in the cold and the rain.
Robert says bus companies need to be clearer about their disability policies and need to better understand just how hard it is for people like Travis and Braden to have equal access to something many of us take for granted. Emma Wilkinson, ITV News, Gosport.
In other news, a nurse whose career ended when she was attacked by a patient has been told she'll have to live with chronic pain for the rest of her life. Louise Jago is taking legal action against Brighton and Sussex University Hospital's NHS Trust. She blames staff shortages caused by NHS cutbacks for the incident. The Trust says it takes staff welfare very seriously, but is unable to make further comment at this time.
A Brighton-based charity has published a major study into cyberbullying and hate speech online. The Ditch the Label organisation teamed up with a social intelligence company to look at 19 million tweets over a 4-year period. They found most insults related to intelligence and appearance.
Friends of a woman who died from pancreatic cancer have succeeded in getting Southampton City Council to light up the Civic Centre in purple. Bev Guyman raised thousands of pounds for research before her death in May. The Turn It Purple campaign aims to raise awareness of the disease.
You're watching ITV News. In the Meridian region coming up, a supermoon weather forecast with Helen Plint and Andrew Pate has the sporting news, including
how a former England cricket star has inspired a theatrical campaign to increase awareness of mental health and player welfare.
And for more on all of our stories, head to itv.com/Meridian. Any views or news, you can call us on 0808 1010 095 or get in touch via Facebook, or you can send us a tweet at ITV Meridian.
Well, Well, as governments around the world try to work out how to deal with Donald Trump, one politician from our region has already been to see him.
South East MEP Nigel Farage spent an hour with the president-elect at the weekend and has suggested he might act as a go-between for Prime Minister Theresa May.
Downing Street said today, though, that won't be happening, but some MPs say it should. Well, our political correspondent Phil Hornby is at Westminster for us now. Phil, we're used to Nigel Farage making comebacks, but this one tops the lot, doesn't it?
It does, Fred, and he is loving it. I swear if you closed your eyes at the weekend, you could hear that famous Farage guffaw from 3,000 miles away. Although when he arrived at Trump HQ in New York, he wasn't giving much away.
Do you have a minute to talk about what brings you here today? Did Mr. Trump bring you, invite you to come today?
We're just tourists.
It's a convenient day for tourism. Are you helping with the transition at all?
Are you assisting with the transition, sir?
Extraordinary, Phil. How did he get this special access?
Well, it goes back, Fred, to August when, much to his surprise actually, he ended up as one of the main speakers at a Donald Trump rally. He was introduced by Donald Trump and he took the opportunity to tell the Trump campaigners in the audience, look, you can win this, forget the opinion polls, look what we did with Brexit. And from that moment on, Donald Trump referred to Brexit in just about every speech he made right up until the election. So Nigel Farage thinks he helped Mr. Trump win.
Interesting. What are the government here saying, Phil?
Well, Nigel Farage is offering himself up, as you say, as a kind of go-between. Downing Street are saying absolute nonsense. We don't want three people in this marriage. They're saying Theresa May is quite capable of getting a relationship with Donald Trump by herself. But some of her own MPs think she should be listening to Nigel Farage.
I could quite easily see her picking up the phone to Nigel Farage and saying, you know, come and have a whiskey and tell me all about what you know of Donald Trump. If he can be of assistance, I think that we should invite him to give us the benefit of his advice.
So Downing Street say it won't happen, but I suppose the message we've all learnt from this extraordinary political year is expect the unexpected.
Gets more and more intriguing. Phil, as always, thanks very much indeed.
Now, we hear a lot about the shortage of money in the NHS, but how much of its money is being thrown away?
Well, every year about £300 million is spent on medicines that aren't used, prescribed but then thrown down the drain or into an incinerator.
Well, it's estimated that one of every £25 spent on prescriptions is wasted. So, in East Berkshire, for example, around £2 million worth of prescriptions are, it's thought, collected but not used or not used properly.
In Dorset, the figure is around £5 million, while in Hampshire, it's thought at least £10 million was wasted last year.
Karen Bell has been investigating the scale of the problem and what might be causing it.
Another day, another tonne of unused medicines arrive at this depot, 20 bins worth. Here's where millions of taxpayers' money is going, on the pills, sprays, creams and liquids that have been prescribed but which patients didn't need or didn't take properly. So where do they put it all?
With the pharmaceutical waste, it goes for the highest form of treatment, which is through incineration, through our internal treatment. And then after that, you have got residues which go to landfill, unfortunately. So we know the back end of that, we're running out of holes in the ground.
And this is just the waste that people have bothered to bring back to the pharmacy or GP. How many of us just chuck old medicines in the bin or down the toilet where they can pollute the environment? Creating this much rubbish is an expensive business for the NHS. Across England, it spends £300 million a year on wasted medicines. As soon as a medicine leaves the pharmacy, the law states that it can't be given to any other patient.
Which means that a lot of the medicines that end up here are completely unused. This is an unopened pack of diabetes pills worth £5, and this is an unused asthma inhaler worth £30. Both of them have to be thrown away.
So what's causing so much waste? This GP believes a lot of patients don't check their repeat prescriptions to see if they really need it all. But there's another force at work. Where there's medicine prescribed, there's money to be made.
Another issue is about pharmacy companies who have processes that allow patients to have their prescription items on a regular basis, and they don't complete the cycle as they should do of actually checking every month that the patient needs all the items that they are prescribed, so they routinely just have these delivered, and that's how the waste stockpile builds up.
Many clinical commissioning groups are now trying to change their repeat prescription systems to make them more efficient. But in the meantime, what can we all do to help?
Take your medicines as prescribed, and when you order your medicines, always check your cupboards to check what you need before you order more. Don't just order everything, or check what you need first. And if you're having any problems with your medicines, or you're unsure about them, or if you have any concerns, always speak to your pharmacist or to your doctor and let them know, because there's a lot they can do to actually adjust your medicines so to make them a lot easier for you to remember or to take.
Until people heed that advice, there'll be plenty more where this came from. Karen Bell, ITV News.
Just the medicine now, Andrew Pate with your sport.
Thank you very much indeed. And we start with Portsmouth, because they won in style on Saturday to give them renewed hope in their push for promotion. Cole Baker with 2 great goals to seal the win and lift the team back up the table. The victory means they're just 3 points off the automatic promotion places, and they kick off our roundup.
Selco Builders Warehouse, proud sponsors of ITV Meridian Sports Report.
Over 16,000 braved the rain to see Gary Roberts opening the scoring for Portsmouth. The wet surface may have played some part in Mansfield going down to 10. And then there were 9, and Pompey took control. With 6 minutes to go, Noel Hunt scored his first for the club. Cole Baker then stepped up with a couple of minutes to go, and then scored an even better one in the 95th minute. Crawley last tasted victory on October the 1st. They did take the lead, thanks to James Collins scoring his 8th of the season. But they're struggling at the back with injuries and form. Cambridge United running away as 3-1 winners, with Uche Ikpeazu scoring the lob of the day over goalkeeper Glenn Morris. In League One, it was Tim Sherwood's first match as Swindon's Director of Football, and he brought Lady Luck with him as they opened the scoring through a Morgan Fox own goal. In the second half, Lloyd Jones pounced to make it 2, and the Robins wrapped up their first win in 5 matches with a great run by Yasser Kazim and a cool, calm, confident finish by Johnny Goddard. An off day for Oxford United and goalkeeper Simon Eastwood, with bottom of the table Shrewsbury making the most of it. There was little the keeper could do about Sean Whalley's strike in the 98th minute. On the break, the Shrews striker running the length of the pitch to finally break Oxford's resistance. Well, we're a week into the Vendée Globe solo round the world race, and Alex Thompson from Gosport is in the lead. That's despite some technical problems, as he explained to us.
Engine's kind of fixed, various problems. It's a bit of a teenager's engineering workshop downstairs, lots of oil and a bit of a mess. So I've got that to clear up in the next few days, but job list isn't too bad. Must keep an eye on that engine. Cheers now.
A former England cricketer is the subject of a new play coming to Hampshire and Sussex over the next few days. Colin Milburn was a big-hitting, larger-than-life character, but his story has been told by playwright and former Dorset County cricketer James Graham Brown to raise awareness about mental health. Donovan Blake has more.
Members of the MCC. They were bound for Barbados and a winter tour of the West Indies. Colin Milburn, as usual, looked in fine shape.
He's been described as a great big man with a great big heart. And at the peak of his powers, Colin Milburn was the equal of any bowler with bat in hand. A promising England career was just 9 tests long when he lost his left eye in a car accident in 1969. But he had very little outside the game he loved and lived for after struggling to resume his playing career.
The light makes a lot of difference as far as my good eye is concerned.
And obviously the main difference is confidence. It's trying to drum into my own mind that I can do it again.
So the title of this one-man play is very poignant.
I'll tell you what, Ollie, the amount of those you put away, we ought to name the drink after you. A Milburn!
Why Colin Milburn as a subject?
Well, I was there at Lord's as a 15-year-old boy when he scored his first 100. I made my first class debut in the season in which he made his comeback, and I didn't play against him, but I remember all the stories that people were saying about the travesty of a man, the sadness of him trying to make his comeback. And then 3 years ago, I lost the sight in my right eye. And I guess that the realisation of what he had to battle through.
Make them laugh. That's what I always say. If you make them laugh, they'll forgive you anything.
Ollie's story resonated with some of his former colleagues who attended the preview, George Sharp and Peter Willey among them.
Actually, I was quite sad at the end because I didn't realise how badly Ollie was in life at the time he died. I remember as a young kid in the second team, people would just come to watch Milburn bat. They'd rush up at lunchtime, or if he's batting in the morning, they'd rush in, or the next night, we're going to go see Ollie's batting, let's go. They'd get out and they'd just walk out.
One line from the play is never let anyone know that you're hurt, and the more you're hurt, the wider you smile. But it's an issue which goes beyond the cricketing arena to all sportsmen and women.
They're going through the same things, they're going through the adoration, they're going through the competitive environment, and then they're going through the down times and when the career finishes. So this is a message for everybody, not just in sport, but in society, because we're all transitioning in and out of careers.
And the Professional Cricketers Association is keen for Colin Milburn's career to be remembered through this performance. Donovan Blake, ITV News.
And the plays at Sussex County Cricket Club on Wednesday and Hampshire next Monday.
It's fascinating, Andrew. Thank you very much. Now, she was an aristocrat, actress, writer, and one of the most famous and glamorous of characters on the London and Paris social scene in the early 20th century.
Lady Diana Cooper may not be a name we know today, but as a young woman she moved in high society circles. But it's her belongings collected through the decades that are of interest this week.
Indeed, her possessions are being auctioned off on Wednesday by the Berkshire auctioneers Druids, as Lauren Hall explains.
She was a prominent social figure, as beautiful as she was glamorous. Lady Diana was the wife of Alfred Duff Cooper, the Viscount of Norwich. They married nearly a century ago, and their home was filled with all the trappings of aristocracy. Antiques, heirlooms and other treasures from the past. A collection which is now up for auction at Druids, based at Donington Priory in Newbury in Berkshire.
This sort of collection just doesn't come up anymore. It's quite rare to have a collection where you have 18th century sculpture, bits of fancy dress from the 1920s, modern pieces. It reflects a whole family's existence.
Their son, John Julius Norwich, is now in his late 80s. The decision to move home prompted him to sort through some of the family possessions.
So here we have a fascinating group of photographs which tells you how well the family were connected, and they're all signed by the people who were photographed. Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, Edward VII, and we have Winston Churchill and President de Gaulle.
To move in such circles, one always has to keep up appearances.
Lady Diana Cooper loved to dress up, and here we have a Russian headdress and a wonderful embroidered and hand-painted fan.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Isn't it fantastic?
Lady Diana became a successful actress, while her husband graced the world stage as British ambassador to Paris at the start of the Second World War. When they weren't busy working, they were busy socialising. Many of the items in this collection aren't particularly high value, but they are rich in history. Take, for example, this purse. Inside, it's filled with opera and theatre tokens, and they give us a wonderful glimpse into aristocratic life. It's no wonder there's been so much interest in the collection, which is made up of more than 150 items.
We're all used to looking at things today which have a short shelf life, and they don't survive, and people change with fashions all the time, but actually an awful lot of these things, they are timeless, and we need to keep them for our future generation.
The collection's expected to raise more than £100,000 this week, when all the items and the stories behind them go under the hammer. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
Well, staying in the 20th century, and it was last seen in 1948. But tonight, for the first time since then, we can see a supermoon.
Yes, it's out there now, a moon that's closer to Earth than it has been for quite some time. It won't be this close again for around 18 years, so I might not see it. The supermoon looks bigger and brighter than usual.
Let's cross to Sarah Saunders at the Hurstmondsey Observatory Science Centre, home to 6 historic telescopes. Sarah, have you got good sight of it yet?
Well, it's a great place to do a bit of moon gazing here at the Hurstmondsey Observatory because there's not too much light pollution. But if you come with me and look out at the tree line, you can't see anything. It's far too cloudy here in the south tonight, so it's not there. But behind all that cloud, it will have all the classic supermoon characteristics. It'll be big, it'll be low, as though you could pluck itself out of the sky and pop it in your pocket. But since we can't see it, come in here with me into the observatory. We've got this incredible telescope in here, and we've got Science Director Sandra Voss. Sandra, am I right in saying the moon would actually have been closest to us about 11 o'clock this morning, but night time, that rising moon, is a good time to have a look at it?
Yes, about 11:30 this morning, just before, that's when it would have been at its closest approach, but it wasn't in our daytime sky then, so we have to wait until the moon rises. Of course, it's the best time to see it because of this thing called moon illusion, and it looks at its biggest then anyway. You've got the reference point of possibly trees on your horizon. When it rises higher and higher, you lose that, so it doesn't look quite so big.
So why do we get this phenomena?
Well, the moon's orbit around the Earth is elliptical. It's not a complete circle. It's a bit of a squash circle.
So it comes closer sometimes.
And sometimes it's further away.
Well, let's have a look, see if we can see anything out there. It's not going to be this close again for another 18 years, but don't worry, because it's not going to be much further away tomorrow. Have another look then, see if it's a bit clearer.
Thank you, Sarah. We'll keep an eye out for it. Let's hope we can see it.
Are we going to see it? Let's find out. Let's get the weather forecast for tonight and indeed for tomorrow as well. Here she is with tonight's forecast, Helen Plint.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Hello there. A very good evening to you. Well, disappointing conditions for catching a sight of tonight's supermoon, I'm afraid. This was a beautiful scene across much of the south last night. Clear skies. Of course, this was easterly in Hampshire, taken by Stephen Clift, but quite a different story tonight, nestled under a thick blanket of cloud. But for the time being, it is very mild. So you can see we hold on to those slightly warmer temperatures across the south for the next couple of days. This does mean temperatures stay above average for the time of year until Thursday, that is, because this occluded front starts to push in from the west, bringing rain, stronger winds and also tumbling temperatures in time for the weekend. Back to the here and now though, and overnight tonight, as I say, thick cloud overhead does mean, well, any chance of seeing the supermoon will be very hampered. Although light winds for the time being. A little bit of drizzle here and there throughout the first part of the evening, but all in all a very mild night. So temperatures easily reaching double figures, and so we start tomorrow on a mild note as well. And, well, thereafter, a very similar setup to today, so very little chance of much brightness or sunshine, plenty of cloud cover, grey skies overhead, and the chance of 1 or 2 outbreaks of rain. They will be at least fairly light and patchy in nature, and highs just about working their way up to the mid-teens. So, as I say, very mild for the time of year, a good 5 degrees above average or thereabouts. But come Wednesday, as you can see, well, we still hold on to those grey skies overhead, a little bit more in the way of brightness come Thursday, but that comes the showers as well. And later on it will turn wet. But look at that, the main talking point, the temperatures tumbling and struggling to reach 8 by the end of the week.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Did you see it in 1948?
I remember it vividly.
Do you? Well, it's a good job because we're not going to see it again. In just a moment, we've got the ITV Evening News. You might do. The ITV Evening News coming up with Mary Nightingale and Mark Austin.
Stacey Scott, Outlet News. But for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you very much, Steve, for watching. See you same time, same place tomorrow. Take care.
Bye-bye.